Hi, Pet the Podcast Editors here. This week, Dan and Lloyd are discussing how you can go global. Now, it's one thing working with clients on home soil, but there are unexpected benefits that come with working with international clients. And today, Dan and Lloyd are going to tell you all about them.
For the listeners or the viewers, is this relevant for everyone? Like, should every business be trying to get clients internationally?
Lloyd potentially insults an entire country of people in one sentence.
Is that offensive then if you say this?
Well, they might be like, no, we're not developed. We're developed, mate.
And Dan explains the weirdest thing that ever happened whilst working abroad for an international client.
Is there many cultural differences that I need to be aware of so I don't offend people? When I thought I was saying good stuff, a lot of them were like shaking their head.
Now, before we dive in, we'd like to take a second to thank our sponsors, Adobe Express. Adobe Express allows you to quickly and easily create standout social graphics, logos, flyers, and more for web and mobile. Click the link in the description to try Adobe Express today. Right, let's dive in. Passports at the ready. This is episode 120 of the Business Anchors podcast.
We're just a couple of business anchors. Welcome to the Business Anchors podcast. This jingle is slightly too long. This jingle is slightly too long.
Why would anyone want to work with brands all over the world, and how on earth can they do it, Lloyd?
Well, there's lots of reasons to work with brands internationally. I say internationally rather than all over the world because I'm slightly more intelligent than you.
Okay, well done.
But there's actually lots of reasons that I think businesses and business leaders aren't thinking about or don't think about. Lots of opportunities, and I'm going to go through that, and we're going to talk about kind of how potentially businesses can work internationally that aren't at the moment as well, because I actually think it's simpler for a lot of businesses that people think. So we're going to talk about that as well.
Cool. And we actually spoke a lot about this in episode 113, how recession-proof your business. We spoke a lot about the benefits of working with clients internationally as well.
Yes. So that's one of the points, actually, is about spreading risk. I'll give you a teaser about what I'm going to talk to. It's some sexy subject matter. And yeah, that's something we discussed before. So in an economic downturn like we got in the UK at the moment, it can be something that can really help you.
How many different countries or brands from different countries do you think we've worked with, Lloyd?
Like we're working with right now or have worked with?
Worked with.
Oh, I don't know. I imagine like we've worked in a few different countries, but I feel like it's like a handful, and then we've done repeat work rather than like 200 countries.
Yeah.
So I reckon like I don't know, like 6 or 7 different countries. Is that right?
So I was just counting. I've got 11.
Okay.
So let me just. So we've worked America, Australia, Israel, France, Republic of Ireland, Austria, Dubai, Romania, Bulgaria, Lithuania, India.
Oh.
And I bet you don't remember all of the work that we've done in those different countries.
Now thinking about it, I remember being in Lithuania, so that's one that I didn't think of. Yeah, now you say them, I was like, yeah, we did. We have done all those things,
and I think this, and it's got a lot more recently, and we've learned a lot about how to work with brands from these different countries. So this is
thinking about it as well. I've just been thinking of the more recent work we've been doing
years
with
ago,
our business, where we've been doing video production and video editing and that kind of thing, making ads and running campaigns for businesses. But actually, we've all from now my memories going. We've done training, public speaking.
We were doing consultancy for a startup in India, Lloyd. You don't remember?
I did not remember that. Yeah, okay, so we've got more to talk about than I thought. Nice. Yeah, and to be honest, with the viewers and listeners as well, a lot of those, thinking back, well, when we were we're still a small business, but when we were a much smaller business.
Well,
so
it was me and you.
If you're thinking about this, I know we have some listeners that are like freelancers or one-man bands or have small businesses rather than those that work in bigger businesses. This is relevant for you as well, because we were doing it when there was probably 3 people in our business when we started first working internationally.
That's what I was going to ask you. For the listeners or the viewers, is this relevant for everyone? Like, should every business be trying to get clients internationally? Do you think?
Every person on the earth should listen to this podcast and share it with all their friends and family.
I thought you'd say that.
But I do think it's relevant. I think, I suppose it depends your role in a business. If you're in a bigger business, it may be that you're already working internationally. Maybe you're not, and you could be the person that suggests this, and for the reasons we're going to talk about. So that could be a good opportunity. But I think actually it's probably more of a wake-up call for the smaller businesses that probably might have thought that it's not possible or they shouldn't consider it.
So it's a good idea for local plumbers to be marketing over in India. You think that's a good idea, do you, Lloyd?
No. That's why I didn't say local plumbers.
You said a lot of...
I said smaller businesses, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's a no-brainer. I nearly
The
swore
local
at you then.
cleaners.
It's a no-brainer for service-based businesses. Oh, no, that plumber is a service-based
Yeah,
business.
plumbers.
How would I describe the business then?
That's why I asked you the question.
Okay. It's a no-brainer for a business
That isn't... Go on.
No.
Go on,
no,
go on.
No, let's
Go on.
keep making each other sound terrible.
Go on, Lloyd. Go on.
No, I want to hear it now, then.
So I was thinking, the way I was thinking it was, it's for like non-localized businesses. And it depends on your ambitions as well, because a local plumber, it may be a good idea to market internationally if you're looking to expand internationally.
Okay, yeah.
Right. But yeah, if your business isn't localized, I think anything that's product based, you can sell online to anyone around the world. So I'd say if you've got a product based business, the other thing is if it's a service based business, I think that's when you need to have a bit more of a think because of the logistics of working with someone in America or Australia.
I think the opposite.
Do you?
Yeah. So I think service based businesses, I think if you go over the things that we're going to talk about here, can be simpler. Product-based businesses in certain industries, you have to look into the different rules and regulations and tax, and you have to redesign your packaging, and you have to put safety notes. So I think there are complications to both sides, but I also think there's opportunities.
That's what I was going to say.
Sides.
Or opportunities for both.
There is. Yeah.
Cool.
So shall I start? I've got six reasons why you should consider working internationally.
Yeah, give us those reasons.
Shall I give you some?
This is going to convince the listeners.
The first one is the least sexy.
Okay.
It's the one we spoke about, spreading risk.
Yeah.
So we spoke about this in our previous episode about recession-proofing your business, which was what episode, Dan?
113.
Nice. Listen to that. And basically, it's if you're in a country, because I know not all our listeners are UK based, but if you're in a country and all of your customers are in that country, then if that country has an economic downturn or a recession, then you will be majorly affected by that. If 50% of your customers are in that country and 50% are in different countries, then half of your income is going to be affected and half might not be. So that's the simple
sense.
part of it, spreading the risk of your business. And I would say as well, I know we're talking about working internationally, and that's fancier, but it could be, I'm just working in my town of Margate, and actually Margate might be going through a bit of a tough time, and you could think of working in other areas of the country you're in. So it can be slightly more localized as well, spreading that risk. Yeah.
So that's not very sexy, but it is very practical.
Yeah, which is me all over.
Yeah.
Second one. Actually, is this probably less sexy? Probably getting less sexy.
Okay. God's sake.
Currency exchange.
Yeah.
So I do think this is something people don't think about, but it became really relevant recently when there was a dip in the pound. It makes it cheaper. So when currencies change, so say, for an example, the most recent thing, the pound weakened, so it makes other currencies stronger. And what that basically means is it's cheaper for people to buy your products or services in their own currency. So basically, international customers suddenly get a discount, like it's on sale, without you having to change anything.
Nice.
Which is an opportunity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Say you're speaking to a potential American client, you're going to do a deal for £20,000, and then the pound weakens. You could be saying, "Oh, by the way, it's probably got another $1,000 cheaper for you because that's changed."
I'm actually just thinking from listening to your advice from a sales perspective. I feel like I should be including this more in conversations with international clients. So thank you for the advice, Lloyd.
Yeah, any customer at any time, if their currency is strengthening, it's basically on sale for them, or if the pound is weakening. In our case, in the UK.
I'm actually going to action that. Thanks, Lloyd.
That's all right. See, I told you wouldn't be thinking of these things.
Yeah.
Oh, the other thing, by the way, on that, VAT. So in the UK, we charge VAT, which is 20%.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to charge that to the US, to Australia, to lots of countries around the world.
So they
automatically either get a 20% discount, or we can charge 20% more and have more in our business. We actually just completely give it as a discount.
Yeah.
So our international clients get 20% off of
That's
the
made me
cost.
think again. You're really making me think this episode, Lloyd.
Good.
Maybe
you should try it more often.
I don't think I do a good enough job of communicating that benefit when it happens.
I don't think you do either.
Because I think when it happens and we work with a new customer and they're like, "Oh, you charge VAT, but we don't." It's like, no, that's fine. I should make more of an effort saying, "Yep, that's a 20% discount for you."
Yeah, it's basically, 20% sale.
Yeah. Again, I think like communicating these added benefits to international clients is another way of convincing them. And I feel like I'm not doing that enough now. So that's good.
And if you're a product-based business as well, thinking about that, again, like I said, different industries, you have to look into the different things you have to do. Some it's simple and some it's very complicated depending on where you're exporting to.
Yes.
But if there is an increased cost in you selling to the US, for example, of 20%, that would be offset with the VAT that your customers won't have to pay.
Yes.
Do you know what
definitely
I mean?
look into it, because I remember whenever we work with a client from a new country, we take a while to look into all the rules and things, because it's different for different countries, isn't it? Because some customers, I'm sure some countries you do charge VAT. Yeah. But not that many.
Yeah. So I would look in. It's a simple Google though of like, you could be like, exporting dairy to Canada, and it will just come up straight away like, terrible idea, but this is what it costs. Cool. Yeah, so definitely look into it. But another opportunity to basically be giving a discount or making more money.
So
internationally.
Reasons: spreading risk, currency benefits. What else you got for us, Lloyd?
Growth markets. Getting less sexy. Are you getting turned off?
Yeah, I'm very turned off, yeah.
It's a similar type of thing, but basically there's countries in the world that are really on the up. So those developing countries, whereas the UK is seen as a developed country, those developing countries are basically in a situation where there's more and more money and more opportunities to grow businesses and things, and they're looking for things to invest in and to improve. So those developing countries, I don't want to offend anyone, so I might be wrong here, but potentially Lithuania could be counted as a developing country. I might be wrong there.
Is that offensive then if you say
well, they might be like, no, we're not developed. We're developed, mate.
I guess there's levels to
obviously.
as well,
and there's probably some way of like factually saying what is a developed.
But you haven't done the research.
But I haven't. No, I'm not intelligent enough. I haven't done the research. But for something like that, we went out, and you spoke on stage, and I was there.
You held my bags.
Yeah. But that was an opportunity where that was kind of something. There was an industry that was growing. We went to support that, and they invested in us, and they had the budget to do that. That's what I'm trying to say.
Cool.
Opportunities coming up in different countries.
Opportunities in developing countries.
Yes.
Nice. That makes sense. What else you got?
Multiplying your potential customers by 100.
Okay, it sounds very generic, but go on.
It is generic. It's so simple, but this was the biggest thing that clicked in my head when we started thinking about this.
It sounds mental, but go on.
Right? The UK, so again, UK example, it's not quite as much if you're in the US, but UK, we make up 0.87% of the world population. So if you're just selling to the UK, you've got 0.87% of the world. If you say, I will sell everywhere in the world, you've got 100 times the potential customers. And I know, obviously, you're not going to sell to everyone because
they're not all English.
It's not going to be
speaking.
But even if you just were like, actually, we could easily work in US and Canada, or actually, we should be working in France and Germany and Austria and Belgium and countries in the EU, then you might get to the point where you're like, we've got 10 times the amount of customers, 20 times the amount of customers. You can go
for the low-hanging fruit of the English-speaking countries, because I think there's more barriers to if you're going for a country that doesn't speak English, because
Yeah.
all the translating and that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And think the population of the US, which is a big number. Just adding that. So say you're like, well, now we're going to work in the UK
Yeah.
and the US. That's
Your potential
massive
audience,
potential. Yeah.
the size is massively grown.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That
It's
makes
simple,
sense.
isn't it? But it makes so much sense. If you think, right, if I convert the same amount, have the same conversion rate in the US, I'm going to make so much more money. That's why, like, you see in popular culture, bands and stuff try and break the US because
Yes.
think how many people can stream your music and buy tickets in the US compared to the UK. And that's why there's a lot of, I'm getting into geek mode now about documentaries I've watched, but there's like certain really big artists in the UK and their wealth is like 1% of other artists.
Yes.
Just because they broke the USA, and they in the UK they seem just as famous, but it's
Do you
just
remember
completely
Cher
different.
Lloyd from X Factor?
Yes.
She's literally doing that.
Get
as the
your
first-
swag on.
Yeah. She's because she was on X Factor and got a bit popular here, but then I saw on her Insta and stuff. In America, there's like tens of thousands of people that are like, "Oh, we love you." So
And
she's doing
it's,
that.
a lot of we're talking about music artists now, but that is the thing. It's the opportunity of a country that speaks your language with similar tastes and wants and needs, but there's just shitloads more people.
Yeah.
That is the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
And I know obviously not all products or products or services are going to be relevant, but I think a lot of businesses it is, and people just don't consider this.
Yeah.
I would say with all of this, if you have a failing business in the UK, and
Then go global.
that sounds harsh, but I suppose don't look at this like, oh, it's probably because we're not in Canada. I would say, like, if you're not seeing a level of success in the country you're in, then probably focus on addressing those things. It's not just like, well, there's more people there, so but this is an opportunity if you're at the point where you're seeing some level of success. And
does make me think
expanding
in
that.
agency land, seeing some really successful agencies who were opening an office in USA, in New York, it's like, they're doing that to get a presence there as well. So interesting.
A lot of these as well, insider things from speaking to these agencies. A lot of the time,
Office there means they've got a
sometimes they open an office there and they've got their office, they've got one or two people there, and it's just so they can say they've got an office there. But also a lot of the time they have zero clients in that country when they start, and it's then building it up.
Yes.
But the opportunity is there.
Yeah.
Hire a couple of people and you can explore those opportunities.
So have you got any more reasons why this is a brilliant idea? I think, is that 5 or 4?
That was 4, I believe. I've
you've got 2
now.
more? Bloody
These
hell.
are more, I suppose, more tactical rather than big strategy.
Okay.
But one thing that I didn't think of before is that time differences can be a positive. So previously I was thinking like, well, if you work with someone on the other side of the world, surely that's going to be rubbish.
I had to have a very early call with someone in New Zealand the other day, which was annoying.
Yes. So I understand there are some challenges to it, but also a positive I've seen, and I do think we need to improve on this the more we work with international clients, but depending on the time difference, it can be really positive, as in your client, say it's 5 p.m. for your client in a country like the US, which we experience. It's the end of their day. What was it, the US? Anyway, we're not looking at details in this episode, okay? It's the end of their day. They send an email saying, oh, can we do this, this, and this? At times, we were able to, that was then at the start of our day.
Night.
We were
And it was
then
done by
able to work on it. And by the time they get back, they've woken up in the morning and get back, and we've done it.
We're bloody brilliant.
What? No, but like, what a service for a customer. Like, our UK customers don't get that because we're not staying
5
up
p.m. on a
overnight.
Friday, they...
Yeah. It's just an interesting positive that I think can be there at times where to them, the perception is it's a better service or because we're working through the night, in inverted commas, even though it's our daytime.
Yeah.
So, there can be positives there as well. Obviously, depending on it, some places it's just a complete negative. I have to say, New Zealand has been challenging because it's literally 12 hours. So, our contact with them has to be early morning or evening at any point. So, that is a challenge. But we're working on it.
What's your final reason?
The final thing that I think is much more relevant now more than ever in like this decade is social media has no borders. I feel like marketing previously, your marketing efforts and who you reach has borders. So it's like, we're going to put advertising on telephone boxes in the UK. And obviously someone in Germany isn't going to be like, I'm going to go look at telephone boxes in the UK to see who I want to work with.
Yeah.
But now, social media, if you do want to work more in the US, it's completely possible to have a strategy of targeting, with paid social or
Very
even
easily.
paid search, or pay-per-click advertising, any of that. You can just target a country that you choose and exclude all other countries. It's very easy to do that. And even organically, a lot of people that I see on TikTok and see on LinkedIn are international. They're in the US and Australia and other countries.
Yeah.
But other English-speaking countries that I think, they're spreading their message internationally, whether it's intentional or accidental, that is happening. Whereas previously it didn't happen as easily as that.
The barriers to entry to work with clients internationally or customers internationally are way less now.
Yeah.
Because of the internet.
If you think you have a successful paid social campaign in the UK that is say you're getting like 4 ROAS, so every pound you're putting in, you're getting £4 of sales. If you think that's working in the UK, if you do the things you need to do and realize, we can actually sell to the US or we can sell to France, why not just do a test campaign for that country and see how it converts? Is it more? Is it less? Is it the same? If it's the same, then it's like, actually, we have an opportunity here.
I think something to bear in mind is it's not always just like a cut and paste job. Like, I think cultural differences in countries is a big thing that you need to consider. Like, we found with British humour in America, it's quite different humour. So you need to really consider that, and there's probably lots of other cultural differences how things work, and that, so definitely
that's the thing in our business and video production marketing, and where we use humour a lot. That's something specific to our business that is a big difference from here to US. And there'll be things that are different in your business.
That just made me think of something quickly. Do you know our first ever international client? This is way, way, way back, like years and years ago.
Was it training in Dubai?
No.
Okay.
It was training in Bulgaria,
right?
That I went and did, and it made me think of cultural differences. So when I got there, I was quite impressed myself. I actually asked the question. I was like, "So, can you let me know the audience members?" Because there was translators for a lot of them.
Right.
And I said to the guy running it, I was like, is there many cultural differences that I need to be aware of so I don't offend people or I don't do anything? Because like
if you look someone in the eye, it means you want to shoot their father.
No, but there is these
shit.
kind of things. So he said to me, in terms of the audience, he said, just be aware that when the audience are agreeing with you, they'll shake their head to the side as if they're disagreeing.
Right.
This is actually a genuine thing.
Yeah.
Like, so they, like, if they're agreeing, they're like, and sort of, they're quite stern.
Yeah.
So I was just glad that he told me that, because when I thought I was saying good stuff, a lot of them were like shaking their head like they hated me.
That's made me think as well. In my old job, when I went to St. Petersburg and did some business in Russia, I went out and I was basically, it was like a sales thing where I had meetings set up and I just had to meet these people I'd never met before, just get plonked in front of me and had like 15-minute slots to basically sell to them. It sounds, it's terrible.
Yeah.
But I came out of it like, oh my God, I've mucked this up so bad. And I was thinking this is the first time they sent me on a trip like this and I'm going to go back. Because I was saying all this stuff like, and we've got this great place that you can send your students to. And it's going to be, and they were just like completely straight faced.
Yeah.
Like, yes.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh God, they hate me and this is so bad. And then like I'd get an email a couple of weeks later. Oh, we absolutely loved your presentation. And I'm like, what? They just seem like they hated me and their life.
Yeah.
And so I think it is important, those cultural differences, whether you're service based and you're actually having to communicate a lot, or whether it's a product and there's something you might have to change or adapt. Yeah,
definitely look into that. I also remember I did one of my biggest speaking gigs in Romania, and like the audience was when I tried to get interaction with the audience, you could literally hear a pin drop. And I felt like I'd done a terrible job. And then I watched all the other speakers, and even Mark Zuckerberg's sister was speaking there, Randy Zuckerberg, and they acted the same for her. So I was like, phew. Because like what do you think? And no one said anything, and everyone looked away, and it was like, okay, this isn't going to be that interactive then. But it's good to know, like, try and understand the...
Nice name drop there, Randy Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
You like best mates now, or?
I actually tried to get her to do loads of shots when we were after drinking, and I don't think she was too keen, so she probably doesn't like me.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. How's that sobriety going?
It's going well. That was years ago. So we've talked a lot about why this is a good idea and that kind of thing. I think we should get into the practical, like how. If someone is listening to this thinking, I want to work internationally, shall we start sharing some advice about how they can do that?
Okay, I'll ask you that then. As
Okay.
You know, you're our marketing man.
Okay.
You're our marketing influencer, speaking in countries like Romania and Lithuania and Bulgaria.
Okay.
So how are you going to sort of spread the message, share how we have done it, or have you got just general tips?
To be honest, I'll only share advice on what we've experienced and things that we've done and had success in.
Okay.
So this is only based on our success, if that's all right, Lloyd.
Yeah, that's fine. No need to ask permission.
So the one key thing that Lloyd mentioned, I think you said something like social media has no borders. Or
I
something?
did, yeah. It's a pretty good soundbite.
Sounds like that should be on like an Instagram quote or a picture of you.
Yeah, looking into the distance.
But my number one piece of advice is having an effective social media marketing strategy. Like you mentioned, Lloyd, with social media, you can very easily reach huge audiences of people around the world through creating content and distributing it on different platforms. And you can even fast track that success by using paid ads, by paying to directly reach the CEO of certain types of companies in different countries. So, having an effective social media marketing strategy is key. If you don't know how to do that, there's tons of resources online that can help you develop a social media marketing strategy. This is literally what we do, so we could help you do that. But definitely just please, if you're focusing on getting clients internationally, make sure you've got an effective social media marketing strategy. Big opportunity
there, isn't it?
Huge opportunity. The second thing, which sounds super basic, actually communicate to your audience that you work with companies internationally.
Yeah.
So this is a really simple thing that we started doing more of. Again, like we sat down thinking, we've worked with all these countries, and then realised we never tell anyone about it, which is why we're talking about it now. We've created multiple posts on social media talking about how we've worked with clients internationally. We put it in our newsletter. Like, think about whatever channels you use to communicate to your audience. If it's writing blogs, creating videos, podcasts, think about how you can creatively communicate that you work with clients internationally to your audience.
I think for some businesses, this is where the huge opportunity is. So this won't be relevant for everyone listening, but there's some businesses like ours that had built up an international audience online. Whether it was intentional or not, there's a proportion of your audience that isn't in the country that you're located in, and they are just ready. Like they're already convinced that they want to work with you, and there's just one barrier. Like they've been listening to your podcast, and they've been reading your blogs, and they've been all that great stuff, and they've been looking at your website and your case studies, and they're thinking, I would love to work with that business if they were in my country. And that's the one barrier. And then you just need to communicate, we can work in your country, and that barrier's gone and they're ready. So it's this like ready-made audience that you've been building that you haven't even necessarily known about, that's there ready to work with you.
So true. Literally had a sales call the other week with a potential customer in New Zealand. First thing they said, I was looking at working with this local company that I know, and you probably don't work with companies abroad, but I just thought I'd check. And I was like, yes, we do. We literally have worked with companies Australia, America. So yeah, just letting them know. And even if you're aspiring to work with companies internationally, you can still communicate to your audience or whoever. You can say, we can work with companies internationally from all around the world. So you don't have to say we've worked with, you could be aspiring to it, and just so that your audience know that.
Yeah. Great.
Another thing, when you actually do get your first international client, it's really important to create content and marketing material that communicates that to the world. So like a case study. Think about, say you get your first international client in France or something, actually create a case study talking about how that worked and the results it achieved and that kind of thing. And then talk about that across multiple channels, like on social media, on your podcast, or wherever you're communicating to your customers. Because there's nothing more powerful than, rather than saying, we work with clients internationally, actually demonstrating evidence and examples of how you've done that. And again, being very meta here, this podcast is what?
Sorry, I feel like that's, at the moment, that's Business Anchors bingo. I reckon in the last 5 episodes you've said, being very meta here, this podcast.
It's because we always talk about things that we've had success with and we're doing. So I want to show examples of that.
Yeah.
So,
and being very meta here, we're showing an example of how we're doing that.
So in this podcast, this is value adding. It's teaching you something, so it's useful to you. But at the same time, we're talking a lot about clients we've worked with internationally. So some of you listening are marketing managers or head of marketing or CMOs at brands around the world, and you're hearing us say this, and you could become a customer of ours. So we're doing this now.
Interesting. I was thinking as well, the perception of if you're communicating effectively that you're working internationally, it can actually have a positive impact on what you're doing domestically as well in the country that you're in, because it may persuade people that you are someone that they want to work with. If they're like, oh wow, they're working all over the world, they must be good. So it's positive in the domestic clients as well as the international ones.
Yeah. And also, like I said, talking about clients that you've worked with around the world, it gives other potential customers reassurance that, oh, I'm based in Australia and I'm looking for services that they offer, and they've worked with another company in Australia. So again, reinforcing that message of, whenever you have worked with a client or a customer or sold your products internationally, make sure you're banging that drum in terms of your communications of, we've worked with clients in this country, we've sent our products to customers in that country. And this is a small thing, like to keep getting that messaging out there, but it's the classic like marketing touch points. If you tell enough people the same thing enough times, it's going to get into their head, so that when they are thinking, oh, we're looking for a supplier of that type of product or that type of service, oh, I saw that Knowlton or that company were talking that they work about working with companies in Australia or New Zealand, we should consider them. So keep communicating that to the outside world.
Yeah. Nice.
Another, I guess, a final really effective strategy that we found, and again, this might not be relevant to every type of business, but for a B2B service-based business like us, our LinkedIn outreach strategy that we mentioned in episode 85, we explained in detail how we do it in episode 85, where I send outreach videos to potential customers from all around the world to work with them, is a really useful episode to listen to if you are a service-based business looking to work with clients around the world, especially if you're B2B. So definitely go and listen to episode 85, because that's really useful as well.
Great. I would like to say as well, so for any listeners that this has been a light bulb moment for, and they're like, oh wow, we could actually work internationally. If you do and you start doing this, can you tell us and come back to us and say, oh yeah, we were doing this, and now our turnover is 28 million because of what you did, and we want to give you guys $1 million to say thank you. Yeah, that would be really, really great to hear.
So yeah, anything else, Lloyd? Anything else to add or say? Or
no, I think that's summed up everything. I think there's lots of opportunities that people aren't aware of that we've gone through, and the whole thing about marketing not really having any borders anymore is where a lot of opportunity comes from.
I think it is a lot simpler than I first thought of working with companies abroad. It's just like it's one of those audience that's
it's
located
one of those
somewhere else.
Things you just think would be ultra complicated. And don't get me wrong, there are certain industries it is really complicated, but you'll already know that if you're in that world. But there's loads of industries that it's pretty simple, and you just need to quickly Google what you need to do and then go for it.
Cool. So I guess we'll
see you in your ears next week.